What's up, guys? Thanks so much for joining us today. Listen, today's podcast is a good one. We're talking about red flags. That's right. If you haven't been married yet, maybe you're engaged, maybe you're dating, and you want to know, what do I need to be looking for? I'm telling you, you want to stick around for today's episode. We break it down, we get into some detail, and it's some good stuff.
I read this thing the other day, and this, I don't remember what it was. I think it was like a Reddit thread. It was like, things you wish you would have done before like marriage, and the one person said, I wish I would have looked at the red flags.
Yeah.
It was like, dang. People really tell you who they are.
They do. Early on.
We just don't like to believe it most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it comes with a couple things. So we'll talk about the red flags, but first and foremost, I think before you get married, you really need to know who you are.
It's true.
Because if you don't, you're operating out of insecurities, which will blind you or deceive you into believing that that's the best you're going to get.
Yeah, that's a good
and
thought.
And you settle. So you turn a blind eye to the red flags. So you really do need to have like a good security and knowing who you are.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you can be manipulated by these people with red flags, waving them in your face, and you'll be deceived and be like, well, I can only get, this is the best I can get.
Or you're the red flagger.
Which, yeah, if the shoe fits
worse.
And you got red flags you're waving around.
Before you get married too, like you should take some sort of premarital counseling.
Yes.
And talk about, one of the questions we ask is like, what's 5 things you don't like about the other person?
Right.
And really what you're looking for is those red flags. Like, oh, they're drunk and they get angry and mean when they're drunk. Like, okay, we should figure out if this is a character flaw.
Right. Or just a quirk.
If this is just something that is just weird. 100%. But we wrote down a couple major red flags that would be wise for really anybody to check out and look into. So we're going to jump into that real quick. And I'll just break the ice. I think the first one is they are secretive or deceitful. Mm-hmm. To me, that is such a major red flag. Because like, what is it that you are hiding? What is it that you can't trust the other person with? Mm-hmm. What is it that is so important that you can't trust the person that you're supposed to be one with in a biblical sense? So, I mean, people, I got a passcode or on everything. I don't share the password for anything. It's all my Face ID. It's like all of those things are super big red flags when people are secretive or deceitful or hiding things. It just makes you wonder, like, what is truly beneath this? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes it's what you thought it was going to be. It's bad. Right. Now, like if someone's hiding your birthday present, that's super different. Right. Then like you have no access to anything ever, and you can't ever find out where they are, and they're like very weird and shady and secretive about everything they do and everyone they talk to. It's like people who erase every single one of their text messages. Right. Which typically those type of people also carry the very they flip the script back on you type deal. So now funny. That was such an old reference. People don't need to erase their text anymore. They just use like Snapchat bullcrap.
It's true. Which if you're a grown like adult, you
over 21 and you still use Snapchat, I think you're probably a womanizer.
Right. It's weird. It's weird. But normally these type of people who are deceptive and secretive typically are the same type that will try to now turn the heat off them and turn it on you, and now convince you that somehow whatever's happening is your fault.
Oh, they're gaslighting you.
It's like they just are married to each other. Like that issue, and then the always reverting back to blaming it back on you.
Yeah, somehow it's like, hey, where were you on Friday night? I called you 3 times and your Life 360 was turned off. And like, somehow now like you're a bad person because you can never trust.
You broke my trust and I can't trust you now. And now you're the one feeling like, oh my gosh, like what did I do wrong? Wait, like I messed something up.
Like, did you go to the grocery store? Like,
like just don't be secretive. If they're secretive and they're unwilling to talk to you about things, or they're unwilling, if they're like, you're sitting next to them, and they're like not, you know what I'm saying? Like there's just so many things. It's like, that's That's weird.
Yeah, what are you looking at over there?
That's super weird. You know?
It is weird.
So there's a level of deceit and they're secretive and...
Outside of like getting like a surprise.
Yeah.
For somebody, I don't know what you would need to be secretive about in a marriage.
Well, no, because that's the thing. I don't think that there should be secrets aside from like fun things, right? Like there shouldn't be things that are secrets that you keep from your spouse. Like that's weird. That's a good way to disrupt trust. And you know, if you're going to be married, your relationship, a foundation of marriage is trust. So if you cannot trust this person that you're dating, this person that you're potentially, or maybe you're engaged to, and you're like constantly trying to convince yourself that no, you can, but you're a little No. Don't lie to yourself. If you feel you cannot trust them because they're actually doing... We're not going to talk about the jealous type who feel like they can't trust out of their own insecurity, but...
Add that as a red flag.
No, we're going to. But for right now, if they're genuinely being secretive and they're being deceptive and they're not really telling you things, then you cannot trust them. That's a red flag.
100%.
That's a waving
100,000%. Giant issue.
I think another great one, we'll just piggyback, like, because that kind of goes into... if they're an extremely jealous person.
Yes.
Like,
dude, it's going to haunt you and it's probably going to be ugly. It's going to
make things real ugly, you know?
These things show a lack in the person that you want to marry. We should probably say this at the end. I'm going to write this down and I'll say this at the end. Keep going.
Okay. But you do now, I'm not saying like, obviously you want the person to care enough about you that if, you know, something were to be kind of outside the lines, like it should upset you or should upset them, right? Like we're not talking about the normal boundaries of like, I care about this person, don't talk to my man, you know? I'm saying if you even glance in the direction of the opposite sex and they're like, oh, were you looking at him? Were you looking at them? Who are you talking to? Why are you talking to them? Why are you doing this? And they're now like accusing you of being like, I don't know, that's weird. That's jealousy is so damaging. And it is a massive red flag because once again, it shows insecurity in that person, or maybe you're the person who's just so overly jealous. You need something healed up on the inside of you because ultimately that jealousy and that constant, like you feel like you can't trust them around anyone because you're so jealous and you feel like they're going to talk to people in the wrong, like that's just not okay. That's a red flag is overbearing jealousy because again, it comes back to trust. And if there's a lack of trust, you know, and ultimately, when someone is so jealous, it creates now another insecurity in the other person. And now it backfires. Now they start feeling like they have to hide things that should be no big deal. But because now it's made into such a big deal that now they feel like they have to hide things. And now it's this domino effect of chaos and there's no trust and you have to walk on eggshells because, oh my gosh, this person just walked into the room and if I even look in their direction, they're going to question me. And that's not healthy. That's not enjoyable. No. That's not fun. And no relationship should be built on extreme jealousy. Like that's a huge red flag. Huge red flag. So you need to make sure you're paying attention and watching out for deceitfulness. If they're being secretive, if they're overly jealous.
Yeah. I would say someone who refuses any type of correction.
Yes.
Is someone that, it doesn't have to be from you. Just like there's plenty of people I know who they've never done anything wrong in their life. They're always the one that was in the right.
Right.
And it's like, actually, that's a huge sign of immaturity.
Right.
Proverbs 13:32, I looked it up real quick, says, he who refuses correction despises his own soul.
It's crazy.
And that's crazy. Look, if you are going to be in a relationship, marry someone who refuses correction, you are marrying, if they're a man, you're marrying a man-child. And
it's true.
They will become victim-minded and there will never be solid forward progress because it's always, what happened to me, and it's always defensive and angry, maybe sometimes, and they're always somehow the victim because now they haven't been treated right.
And they're always the victim, red flag.
It's like, dude, like, just receive the correction. It's okay.
Yeah, right.
Correction is a healthy thing. If you're getting corrected, you don't actually hate yourself.
Right.
He who takes heart to reproof gets understanding. The people that take correction to heart, they gain understanding and they're better in life.
Right.
If you're with someone who refuses correction, you are with an immature child, and that will carry into so many other issues in your life.
Yeah.
And not just your relationship, but your life. Because now at work, well, they're uncorrectable. So people, good luck holding a job for a long time.
Oh yeah, they're gonna go from job to job.
Keeping friends around. Good luck with any other type of healthy relationship you need. If someone's not correctable, that is a gigantic red flag of huge immaturity and lack of ability to actually become a greater human being. And you don't want to waste your time with that. And honestly, like, bro, like, don't waste your time with people. If these red flags are apparent and they're unwilling to change and grow, you are not responsible to be the one that makes them grow up if you're not married to them yet.
You got to drop the savior mentality.
Yeah, that's
like genuinely.
Very unhealthy.
I know that this is mostly in women. There are some men out there who have this, and I know a lot of women think, oh, but I'm different and I will change him. You are not changing anybody who doesn't first themselves want to change and see that there needs to be a change. So you can have that mentality and truly be so convinced that you are so different. Let me tell you, you're not. That you can change him. You cannot change him. You cannot change anybody. We are all responsible for what we want to see in ourselves. And if that other person has these red flags and they're unwilling to recognize it for themselves and say, I'm changing this, then you're not going to be able to change them. So you got to make sure that within these things, again, I think even the savior mentality, it's a mask for an insecurity that's happening on the inside of you. So you really want to let go of that.
That's good. That's a good thought.
You need to make sure, so number one, they need to be held accountable, right?
If they don't like accountability.
If they can't be corrected, nobody can hold them accountable to the things that they say that they're going to do, and they're unteachable, then you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time with somebody who's not able. Right. Because especially for ladies.
Everything's going to be a fight.
Oh yeah, everything. Because remember, ladies, you're marrying someone who is supposed to lead your home, be the head, make decisions, lead you down the right path for your marriage, your kids, eventually, whatever. And you want to be able to trust them. And if they're unteachable, they're not held accountable to anything, and they cannot be corrected, run. Run far, far away.
Until they grow up.
If they grow up.
100%. And you're not going to, also, you're like not going to find. We'll talk about that at the end. Go ahead.
Right. I think someone who's always defensive, they just always seem like you. I think that goes with that. You know, they're also defensive.
Just annoying.
You know, they're just anything you say or try to joke, it just turns into like they can't joke. Everything's like, well, no, that hurt my feelings, or they're just defensive over everything. I would say that there's a deeper issue somewhere, and that is a red flag. I think control and manipulation are other red flags.
Manipulation's a tool of control.
Right. And man, that one right there.
That's how most people end up in terrible spots in their relationships.
Honestly. So this is the thing, right? So you'll see a lot of these work together. I don't think I've ever actually seen where these have not worked together, where they're just a standalone, they're a little bit deceptive, because in some way, because they're being deceptive, they're trying to manipulate you into something.
I set you up sometimes. I get out of the shower and I drop my towel on accident.
That's crazy.
Oops.
That's crazy.
It was an accident.
Oh my gosh.
Poor Trey.
Trey, I'm sorry. Okay, for all the visual people, I'm so sorry.
I think it's a good visual.
I think it is, but Trey.
It's just locker room stuff.
Anyway, that's crazy. All right,
but not like real manipulation.
Yes, like trying to literally control how you think, what you say, what you do, what you don't do, where you go, who you're around. Like, oh my goodness. It changes even
how you think.
It really does. I'm telling you, if they have a problem with all of your friends and they don't want you around all your friends and they don't want you around your family,
just want control.
And they don't want you around that particular person, because remember that, and these people are crafty. They're crafty with their words. They're not going to just come in and be like, I don't like this and I wish you wouldn't do it. They're going to drop little things at a time, and you're going to grab onto them, and they're going to manipulate you into thinking like, you know what? Yeah, my friends are bad and they are a bad influence on my life. And they do make me think and want to do these things. Like, this is why you have to pay attention. And the minute they start to control and all of this starts to overwhelm your life. This is with guys or girls. And now, before, maybe you had a great outgoing personality and you had great friendships and you had a great family dynamic, and now all of a sudden you're like 6 months deep and you just sit at home by yourself while they're at work because they don't want you around anyone, because they've so manipulated and convinced you that everyone else is bad and that they're just looking out for you because they care about you.
But they're the sucker.
But they're the freaking sucker.
They're the frick.
They're the frick.
F them and move on.
Yes.
Forgive them and move on.
Forgive them and say, this ain't working, kid.
As long as you're not married. If you're married, you should have seen the red flags.
Right.
And you need to find a pastor.
Yes.
Or a counselor.
Somebody who can help you.
Not your parents.
Yes. Don't go to your parents.
That can help you. Or your family member.
Yes.
That can help you grow and them grow through this problem.
Yes.
Manipulation's a big one.
Manipulation, control.
Yeah. But I think all of these things show a lack in that person. Like if they're secretive or deceitful, they're not fulfilled. If they refuse accountability, they're not mature. If they're defensive and uncorrectable, well, they need to grow up. If they manipulate, well, they have control problems. If they're jealous, again, they're not fulfilled somewhere in their life.
Right.
They all show a lack inside of the person. Right. And if you're not yet married to this person, well, you really need to sit down and wonder, play it out in your head. You've seen deceptive married people in a marriage before. You've seen people that refuse accountability and get defensive and are jealous. You've seen it. Play the game out. If they don't grow up past this thing, it's going to be miserable and it's going to be hard. Right. And if you don't actually help push this forward, it's going to be a heck of a situation. And you decided to put yourself here by walking down that aisle and saying, I do. So you just need to make sure if these red flags are going already, you need to really take into account what is happening. Now, I would also say you're not going to find a perfect guy or girl at 20 years old most of the time.
Right.
You're not, I'm not saying
nobody's going to be
they have a little bit of defensive-ness, then run. No, that's way different than defensive
it's
about
a consistent,
everything.
Deep pattern.
Yeah, if they're a little bit secretive about something and get to the root of it, it's like maybe they're just it's hurt from a past relationship and they're trying to figure out how to navigate this now. You're not going to find a fully complete person most of the time at 20, 21 years old, but you need to find the ingredients inside of a person that will develop into what you want. So if they have one of these red flags and they are growing through it, working genuinely, not just, I'm working, just genuinely working on it. And if there's a mixture of a bunch of them, pump the brakes. But if it's just one and there's genuine effort and work and they're open to doing better and growing through these things, well, that's completely different than what we're saying about red flags and run.
I would even say one other one. Fear of commitment, right? I've seen so many times where people will get into relationships and you bring up when they're getting married or whatever, and they're like, well, they're just not ready yet. And it keeps getting pushed down the line.
Yeah.
I would say that something that's also kind of like you really should take that into consideration.
Just
because
dragging you along.
Marriage is a commitment, and it's worth it as long as you have, two people willing that are, pretty solid, whole, right? It's like we really need to pay attention to these things, but within the right standards.
Yep.
You can't have like so high that nobody can, meet the standards, because we are humans. We do have flaws. We do make mistakes. We do, but again, if these things are consistent patterns and are consistently happening and taking place, then they are absolutely red flags, and you should absolutely really sit down and take into consideration and rethink, do I want to continue this? And there's lots of other ones. These are just some big ones. I think
these are big ones.
Basic ones, like obviously.
Someone's a drunk.
If somebody.
We could get into that.
Yeah.
Someone's abusive. Do we need to bring that up?
I mean, I feel like some of these should be duh. And I think even some people think, well, I'm in a Christian relationship, so these things I'm fine with.
No, it's not true.
No, that's not true. I have met and seen people
who claim
Christ and are manipulative, are deceptive, have secrets. So listen, unfortunately, right? Even as Christians,
it's not the brand we wear; it's the life we live.
Right,
kid.
We have to prove it living our life based on the word.
Amen. I agree.
So
you guys want to know my least favorite thing about my wife? I'm going to tell her friends right now. She won't go grocery shopping alone.
Is this
Shut up, Trey.
We don't judge.
No. I'm just telling my friends my biggest issue with you.
Well, you know what? I would put the blame on my husband for that, because this man doesn't like to do anything alone. He doesn't like to go anywhere by himself. And anyone with children, if you have kids, comment. We understand each other, okay? Because no mother likes to go grocery shopping with all of her children. Mm-hmm. So that's my rebuttal. And if you're a mother, let me know in those comments.
We'll talk about it at home later. Not with all of our friends. All right. Hey, it's almost Christmas. And I hope you have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.